Exodia, Obliterate. And now in 2025, we'll be obliterating our opponents with the new Millennium strategy that includes Exodia. Today, I'm going to be talking about everything you need to know about this Millennium strategy, how powerful it is, and how you'll be using Exodia to obliterate your opponents. Let's go ahead and jump on in. What's going on with ya, big dog? And it is an amazing day for Yu-Gi-Oh! I hope that's your day. Phenomenal. But if it isn't, don't let what happened at the beginning of your day ruin the rest of your day. Today, we're going to be talking about Exodia. And to be honest with you guys, this deck is fairly straightforward. You got your right leg of the Forbidden One, you got your right arm, your left leg, your left arm, and your Exodia. And the game plan is to just draw these cards. Actually, it's really not. The crazy thing about Exodia is that you have to play these 5 bricks inside of your deck. Another crazy thing about Exodia is that I don't think that there's ever been a time when someone has played this Millennium deck and has actually done the Exodia thing, like have all 5 pieces. I think that that's a really cool homage to Exodia, because if you guys seen the original show, Kaiba said no one has ever summoned the unstoppable Exodia, and mathematically, it is very unlikely if you're playing this deck, you'll be getting all 5 pieces of Exodia to be able to win the game, because that is not the game plan. The game plan is to summon this Exodia guy, the unstoppable Exodia Incarnate. It requires 5 Forbidden One monsters and cannot be destroyed by card effects. Also says once per turn, if it battles during the damage calculation, you can make this card gain attack equal towards your life points. Once per turn, when a spell or trap card or effect is activated, that means spells. Thank you so much for the follow. That means spells, traps, or spells and trap effects, like effects that banish themselves in the graveyard. You can negate the activation. Then it also says once per turn during the end phase, you can set one Exod or obliterate spell or trap card from your deck. The only downside to this card is that you lose 1,000 life points every single standby phase. Now, the Exodia deck is going to play on that life point theme. Your life points are never safe. While the Unstoppable Incarnate can start off with 8,000 attack, it's very likely that it'll start off with a lot less because of its effect and the effect of the Millennium cards. Today, I'm going to be breaking down the most important Millennium cards and the ratios that they're typically being played at and what you could be doing to be able to make your deck go. It all revolves around the golem that guards the Millennium treasures. Now, the Millennium monsters are retrains of some of the older Yu-Gi-Oh cards that you've seen in the show. The golem, or the card game too. The golem, I can't remember exactly what this one is a retrain. You would think it's Giant Soldier of Stone, but it's not. This card says the activation of your Millennium Unk cards cannot be negated. You can only use the effect of Guardian that guards the golem Millennium treasures once per turn. If this card is in your hand, you can place it into your spell and trap card zone as a face-up continuous spell. While this card is a continuous spell, you can either pay 2,000 life points or reveal one Millennium Unk to special summon this card. And then this card adds Weiju Temple. Now, this is easily a must play inside of the deck because it gets you to some of your most important cards. But it's pretty debatable on how many that you play. I've seen particular strategies play 1 copy. I've seen particular strategies play 3 copies. I think anywhere between that 1 to 3 ratio is acceptable for this particular card, and it depends on how reliant you're going to be on Weiju Temple. A lot of people try to use the Secret Village of Spellcasters as their field spell of choice, but fortunately, this card is banned inside of Master Duel. So you could probably assume that we'll take an approach that plays more copies. Also, keep in mind, this is a level 6 monster, and with us just getting the Fiendsmith cards, this card could be used as this card alongside of a couple other cards could be used as a small engine inside of a deck to be able to make more rank 6 plays. The next card we want to talk about is Heart of the Eyes of Blue. Make no mistake, this is Grandpa's Blue Eyes, not Kaiba's Blue Eyes. This card is always treated as a Millennium card, and the control of this card cannot switch. Kaiba could have never used it even if he wanted to. But its main effect is that you can discard one card to add one Millennium Ankh from your deck to your hand. And then if this card is in a graveyard and you successfully activated Millennium Ankh's effect during this duel, and your opponent normal summons or special summons a level 8 or higher monster, or has a monster with 3,000 more attack, you can send that to monsters to the graveyard to special summon Heart of the Eyes of Blue, but that is once per duel. Fortunately, that effect is probably going to be a little bit stronger in Master Duel than in the TCG, but having a monster that can just pop up out of nowhere and also get you to your most important card is kind of crazy. This is a mandatory 3 of. You play 3 of them, you don't look back, one of the best cards. Now we're going into Sinjin Wakes from a Millennium. This card is another old school Yu-Gi-Oh card. It's also holding Millennium Shield, but we'll talk about that card in a second, right? It cannot be destroyed by monster effects. And then once per turn, if it's in your hand, you can place it into your spell and trap card zone as a continuous spell card. Then you can pay 2,000 life points or reveal a Millennium Ankh to special summon these cards. The important Millennium monsters have that effect to be able to place themselves from the hand into the spell and trap card zone, and then pay 2,000 life points or reveal an Ankh to summon themselves. But this card allows you to be able to add a Millennium monster from your deck to your hand. So Sinjin can search Heart of the Blue Eyes because it's always a Millennium monster. It can search Golem to get Wedju, which is also a Millennium monster. This is a mandatory 3 of inside of your Millennium deck too. The last Millennium card that has anything to do with Millennium Ankh and paying life points is Shield of the Millennium Dynasty. And this card can't be destroyed by spell or trap card effects, 3,000 defense, and a solid level 5 monster in case you want those level 5 plays. It still has the effect of placing into the spell or trap card zone as continuous spell, and then paying 2,000 life points or revealing an Ankh to be able to summon itself. This card then adds Millennium Ankh from your deck to your hand. So now you have 6 ways to be able to get into your most important Millennium Ankh card, with multiple ways to be able to get to the cards that get you Millennium Ankh. I want you guys to be able to use that to your liking to be able to get the most important card. This card says, show 5 Forbidden One monster cards from your hand, deck, or face up on your field. Then special summon one Unstoppable Exodia Incarnate from your extra deck. Then shuffle face-up monster cards you control into the deck, except Exodia monster cards. Thank you so much for the follow. Except Exodia monster cards, whose original levels are 10 and higher, and Millennium monster cards. Also, you cannot special summon for the rest of this turn. After the activation, shuffle this card in the deck instead of sending it to your graveyard. It is a triple tactic stress target. So, this card forces you to play all 5 pieces of Exodia because they are Forbidden One cards. Those are the only ones that we have right now, to be able to summon out your Unstoppable Exodia Incarnate. In order to get into this card, you can easily use Sinju to be able to search Millennium Shield, search the Heart of the Blue, whatever you got to do to get into this card to be able to fusion summon this card. This deck is built on just summoning the Unstoppable Exodia Incarnate. And unfortunately, you can't play like a Kashtira engine, a Fiendsmith engine, a Bestial engine. You can't play none of those cards because the Ankh itself shuffles all cards that aren't Exodia or Millennium back into your deck, prevents you from special summoning too. So no real way to be able to do that. I'm going to open up this line for questioning before we go a little bit deeper into the complexities and some of the other cards that are Millennium monsters. But yeah, if you guys have any other questions, then let us know. What's this deck's greatest strength? Unga Bunga. Summon big monster. I win. Literally, its greatest strength is summoning this monster. And oftentimes, this monster is really powerful. Like, you can summon it and it can be 8,000 attack on the first turn. But keep in mind, it keeps gaining attack. So hypothetically, if I go through a whole turn, it's 8,000 attack, and I go to my next battle phase, and I don't take any damage other than its own effect, it's 15,000 attack. So this is an Unga Bunga Summon Big Monster Cook You deck. My cousin is a Master Duel Exodia player, and I'm going to send this to him when he drops. Dope, dope, dope. It's King of Skull Servant with better effects. You might be there. Just play Exodia Necros. You know what? Let's look at Exodia Necros. Exodia Necros has to be summoned with Contractor Exodia. It gains 500 attack during each standby phase. You have to have all 5 pieces in the graveyard. I don't know, man. And then Contract has to have all 5 in the graveyard to summon Necros. I don't think that's it. So now let's go on to the supporting cards. I know you guys are probably wondering, Why exactly does this deck allow you to be, or this card allow you to be able to set an Exod or Obliterate? Those cards are actually pretty good. So most people don't play Obliterate. It says you can target one monster in your field, send one Forbidden One monster or Exodia card from your hand or extra deck, and if you do, return that target to the hand. If this card is sent from the field, from the spell and trap card zones to the graveyard, target one Exodia, the Forbidden One or Exodia card in your graveyard, and add it to your hand. So it doesn't really like do much, excuse me, for the deck, because you don't really need Exodia pieces right now. Like they're like, I don't care where they're at, is fine. You know what I mean? But the other ones are a lot better. Obliterate Blaze says one level 10 or higher monster on the field with Exodia in its original name gains these effects. It allows you to pay half your life points, destroy as many spell and trap cards in your zone as possible, then equip 5 Forbidden One monsters from your hand and or deck to that card that give it 2,000 attack. Also, you cannot activate effects for the rest of the turn. Oh, and Exodia then also gets piercing damage. So if you guys remember, I said Unstoppable Exodia could be 8,000 attack. But when you combine it with Obliterate Blaze, you can make it 18,000 attack by equipping all 5 Exodia pieces and giving Exodia piercing damage. Really, really, really good. It also gets rid of your opponent's spells and trap cards. Like you said, it's pretty much a Hatrunate. And it's searchable through the fusion monster. The next one is Exod Fires of Rage. It's always treated as an Exod and an Obliterate card. It says if you control a level 10 or higher Exodia monster, hold on, wait for it, destroy all cards your opponent controls. Pretty good. If it's in your graveyard except the turn it was sent there, you can banish it to activate this effects. Add one Forbidden monster from your graveyard or your deck to your hand. Shuffle 5 Forbidden One monsters from your graveyard or your banishment into your deck. The Exod being able to shuffle your banished Exodia parts could come up, because there may be times where you put a bestial monster in your graveyard and your opponent may bestial it to prevent you from summoning your incarnate. So Rage is not only good at being able to wipe your opponent's entire board at your leisure during their turn, it's also good at a little bit of recovery. This deck does not need to normal summon. There's no normal summons inside of this deck, so people often play board breaker cards like Lava Golem. You could play Sphere Mode, but Sphere Mode's a little more stickier, harder to be able to, beat. People play Dimension Shifter in this deck because it doesn't need its graveyard, and tons of hand traps. But that's pretty much it for Exodia. It's a straightforward Yu-Gi-Oh deck. Oh, I apologize. There are other cards we need to talk about. I apologize so much. I forgot to talk about the Wedju Temple. This card says, during the main phase, you can place one monster from your hand in your spell and trap card zone as a continuous spell. Then place one Millennium monster from your deck as a continuous spell. So this card allows you to be able to place hand traps that are maybe useless, maybe a shifter, to be able to get into your combo pieces, right? Then it also says, if a face-up Millennium monster you control is destroyed by battle or card effect, you can place it in your spell and trap card zone as a continuous spell instead of sending it to the graveyard. Which, in theory, could give you a little bit more playability. It almost makes your Millennium monsters invincible, because they destroy your Millennium monsters, you put them in a spell and trap card zone, then you reveal Ankh. Keep in mind, you can reveal Ankh as many times as you want to bring these bad puppies out. This deck is legitimately a Unga Boonga type Yu-Gi-Oh deck. You just summon big monsters, and when your opponent gets rid of them, you bring them right back. The offshoot Millennium cards are Fiend's Reflection of Millennium. It's an illusion monster, so it can't be destroyed by battle, and it can't destroy monsters by battle. A lot of players don't play many copies of this card, but what it says is if this card is in your hand, you can place it in your spell and trap card zone as a continuous spell. If your opponent activates a card or effect while this card is a continuous spell, you can spell summon this card, then gain life points equal to half of the attack of one monster on the field. That, I could see how it could seem useful, right? Because this deck is based on life points, and this could give you life points, but it's just not really a good card, right? The last card is Maiden of the Millennium Moon. These are all new versions of old monsters. I don't know if you noticed, but this is Millennium Shield, the new version. This is actually a card called Sinjinin. This is also a card, I forgot what it's called, but yeah, these are all retrades. But next is Maiden of the Millennium Moon. This card, of course, is an illusion, so you know the battle effect. You can place it into your spell and trap card zone, and if your opponent activates a card while this card is a continuous spell, You can special summon this card, and for the rest of the turn, your opponent cannot target level 5 or higher illusion or spellcaster monsters you control with effects. Neither of these cards are that good. I think that they needed a little bit more to make them stronger. Of course, you can play as many copies as you want to, but I don't think that a winning recipe would summon these cards as diligently. You know what I mean? But that's pretty much all that we have for the Exodia Obliterate deck. I think it's going to be a pretty fun deck to play. Really solid deck. Hopefully it's cheap. And hopefully we can enjoy some games with this deck. Go ahead and let me know down below in the comment section if you have anything else you want to say. And I can't wait to catch you on the next video.